I'm Alexandra Sleator, Career Accelerator, and that means that working together we can make sure that you achieve your career aspirations faster than on your own. We can work on a range of issues. For example, we can help you progress your career by devising a strategy so that you gain this promotion that you so well deserve. Or we can help you think about how to repackage your skill so that you can ask for a new role and learn new things. We can of course support you in your current role by helping you polish and possibly even develop skills around core areas such as communication, influence, conflict, but also presentation skills, team management, and leadership presence. And finally, if you have taken a career break, we can help you come back to the workforce quickly and successfully. Or we can help you redefine success if you'd like to embark on a new career in a different industry. The important thing is that whatever your aspiration, we can make sure that you achieve it in both a time and cost efficient way. So welcome to this edition of Career Tips. And if you're watching this video shortly after I've posted it, then the London 2012 Olympics have just concluded. And what a marvelous show it was. Here in London we were all gripped by the fever, and I was supporting three teams: France, Germany and Britain, because I'm French, I'm married to a German, and of course I live in London. So I was delighted to be able to celebrate so many medals and so many great accomplishments. If you saw the previous video, you know that it dealt with how to optimize one's own individual performance. And I shared with you a simple method that I called gold. And I encourage you to also go for gold and win your medals by optimizing your performance at work. If you missed it, the URL is appearing on your screen right now so you can catch it up. But in the spirit of optimal performance, I think we also saw during the Olympics that there were a lot of collective achievements, and indeed there were many events in the Olympics which involved teams, small and big, competing against one another and achieving fantastic performance. So I thought that in this little tutorial I would share with you the dynamics of team effectiveness and try to answer for you, how do I as a manager get the best out of my team? How do I motivate my team members so that we achieve a fantastic team performance together? And let me say first off the bat that my personal conviction after being a manager for so many years, and in fact decades, is that while pay and promotion and praise in general will have an effect on your team members, they are not lasting drivers of motivation and engagement for your staff. In fact, I encourage you to look at much more personal factors that will have an impact on your team. And there's really three factors, in my opinion, to keep a team member engaged. First off the bat is to give that person a meaningful job description and some sort of a purpose in their role. It's also to make the right use of their capabilities and allow them to learn. And the third is to let them be themselves as much as possible and grant them the right level of autonomy for them at work. So let's look at these three tips, so to speak, in detail. The first one, as I said, is to provide your employees with a meaningful job. And indeed, people don't go to work because they must. Yes, they must pay the bill, but again, that's not a lasting and deep enough driver of motivation. And yes, people work because they can. To some extent, it is ability related, but mostly people work because they want. And for them to want to work, they must have some sort of significance attached to them. So indeed, my first suggestion to you is that you give meaning to your employees' work. And so to do that, simply find out what makes them tick. For one person, it will be to be very involved in the details of things. They will love that. So give them, work with figures, ask them to check things and to produce, for example, reporting on your team's activities, because that will play to their interest. For someone else, it will be to be involved in new things, to learn new stuff. So that person would be ideal to send off as a scout when you're researching projects. For another person, it will not really be about the job content, but it will be about the fact of being recognized. And so that person will need to have that thank you at the end of a task so that they know that you appreciated their effort. So find out what makes them tick and engage with them on the level that gives them that meaning. And money is only one of them, and it's at the bottom. It has to be there. It's absolutely necessary, but it's by no means sufficient as a reason to get up in the morning. Another way to create meaning for your staff members is to clearly align what they're doing with the overall strategy of the organization you all work for. That way, they have a sense that even with a relatively small contribution, they're adding value and ensuring the organization to move forward in achieving its own much bigger goals. So that's another way that you create meaning for people. Now, after meaning comes mastery, and that's around indeed the skills. So I told you at the beginning that the second vector that I see of motivation is for people to be able to use their skill and to learn new ones. Indeed, when you set the objectives of your team members, it's very important that you give them the right level of challenge. You don't want the objectives to be too easy, because otherwise they'll get bored and they will get disengaged. And you don't want the objectives to be too hard, otherwise they will be demoralized and they will stop believing that they can achieve. And indeed, belief in the fact that they can do it is fundamental to keeping somebody engaged as they work on a task or a project. So you need to really pitch it right, so to speak, and make sure that the skills and the activities, projects that you are empowering your team members with are properly aligned. But what is also usually quite exciting for someone is to discover something new. So therefore, again, pitch it right, make the right use of the skills that you know a person has, but also stretch them a bit, take them into a new place that allows them to find out about untapped resources, for example, to discover new learning, to train in something new, to explore, to test their limits. And in that way, they have indeed mastery, which is both in the moment, i.e. I'm using my skill that I know that I have, but evolving mastery that is growing over time. And third, and hopefully by no means least, is autonomy. People like to be themselves no matter where they are, and so to the extent possible, in a reasonable fashion, let people work to the style that suits them best. I used to say to my team members, I don't care how you get there, but I want to make sure, I want to know that you will cross the finish line on time and get me a medal. So for me, it was all about result. I didn't care if the person was the kind who, liked to plan their work and then work in a very structured fashion according to a plan. I didn't mind if they were the kind of person who liked to work in a last-minute frenzy and they need that pressure in order to produce. I didn't care if they were a morning person who likes to be here at 8 or somebody who wants to stay until midnight, so long as the outcome was on a timely basis and of course of a high quality. So that meant that I was very flexible with both working hours and just generally working styles. And I encourage you to think about that because if you let people be themselves and you give them that sort of comfort in their work life, and we all spend a tremendous amount of time working, then I think you will get more out of them than if you force them to a rigid structure which may not suit their natural inclinations and also their rhythm. We all have a different body rhythm. We are awake at different periods of the day, and so you want to make sure that people can work in the best fashion. Another thing around autonomy is to find out from them how do they like to interact with their management. And that could obviously be you, but it could be of course your direct reports if you have a more layered team structure. Some people will want a lot of guidance, and often that's the junior members of the team, and that's a so-called telling mode. For some people, they actually like to be left quite a bit to their own devices, and so you will want to check in with them, a much lighter approach, and you will want to use the language of suggestion when you're making recommendations, and not tell them how to do things because they'll feel irritated by that. For some people, it will be more around asking them to do things. For some, it will be more a little gentle nudge. So you see, you need to flex it depending on how they like to deal with figures of authority is really what this is about. And so in order to figure that out with all your team members, you need to observe them. So there you have it. Give your people meaning, give them mastery, and give them autonomy. Let them come to work because they want to, not because they must or they can. Let them have the right amount of challenge where they can use their skills appropriately and feel that they're playing to their strengths, that they are also on a learning curve which is not too steep and not too flat, and let them make mistakes as a learning mechanism, reasonable mistakes of course. And finally, to the extent possible, let them be within that corporate structure as much of themselves as they like to be, whether it's in terms of their working style, working hours, and how you as their manager or a direct report deals with them and interacts with them in terms of managing their work and their performance. What do you think? Does that sound like a good recipe for motivating your team, for maintaining team engagement, for raising team morale? What are your techniques? What are you doing right now to make sure that your team members produce, are effective, so that in these difficult times when there's been redundancies, a lot of teams have been trimmed, and the people who remain have a lot on their plate. As usual, I would love to hear your views, and so please don't hesitate to comment on this tutorial, or to just pen me an email, and my address is appearing on the screen. I will now pause and wish you all a great end to your summer. I'm going on vacation, so I'm very, very excited, and I'll see you back in September for another career tip. So thank you so much for watching. I hope this was useful as ever, and take very good care. Bye-bye.